So, welcome everyone to another edition of The Bandwidth. I am Rosie, your host. Some quick housekeeping items. If you are not following our channel, we invite you to follow us so you can see and be a part of our 3 dope shows. Also, during this conversation, we want you to engage with us. So, definitely, if you have a question, ask it. We will get to it in during the conversation, and we will save time at the end to also address any of your questions and concerns. If you know that this conversation can benefit one person, please feel free to share it with them. And also, we want you to enjoy the show and also follow us on IG as well. So, this particular episode is all about how to speak on the camera like a pro. We know a lot of you guys are newbies, and some of you also, are just getting started and a little bit ahead. But all of us want to know how we can do better about speaking on camera. So we have that conversation for you today. Before we get started, I want to thank the Style True team, Eugene and Jennifer, for putting this together. So let's dive in and introduce our guests. Today we have Uji. Today, you know what? I'm going to keep going until I get her name right. If not, I'm gonna have her on here and she's going to tell me how to. Ugochi. I hope I said it right, but we have Ugochi on. She's a speech and language pathologist. And let's welcome her to the bandwidth. Welcome, Ugochi. Did I say it
right? Oh, you did. Thank you for your effort.
Thank you so much. I am a stickler for trying to get people name right, so I'm happy that I got it right. But welcome to the bandwidth, and can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes. So briefly, my name is Ugochi. I'm Thrift and Prosper on Instagram. I am a speech and language pathologist by profession, and by hobby and by passion, I am a thrifter and reseller. Thrifting started very early for me. It was early integrated into my childhood. And as I've grown into my adulthood, I've used it as a creative outlet. It's also very therapeutic for me. And it allows me to connect with others in the community.
Okay, wonderful. So let's dive right into this conversation. So, first question, it's just like so many, what do I want to say? What does it mean to use your voice and for people to hear you authentically on camera?
That is a good question. So, our voices are very powerful. It's very important to know your voice and how you take up space in an area. So, our voices are artful. I love to say that your voice matters, right? So, before we dive in, I want to kind of share how our voices are generated. Our voices are generated in the larynx, which is also known as your voice box. Our voice box houses our vocal folds, which open and close as we breathe and talk. And in our vocal folds, we have certain vocal qualities, right? Such as our resonance, our tone, our intonation, our prosody. Those are different characteristics that help us add character and meaning to our voice, right? So my pitch or my tone might be significantly different than yours. And so those are different ways that we can attribute different meanings and different characters to our voice. So when we're talking, it's important to know that there are so many different ways that we use our voice. We use our voice to sing. We use our voices to lecture. We use our voices to cheer on our favorite sports teams or our loved ones. So our voices are very intricate. They vary and they change within seconds. Within our voice, speaking more about authenticity, since our voices are very unique to who we are, we can use our voice to empower others and empower ourselves. So it's really important to just speak from the heart, right? Like speak authentically to who you are and let your voice, let your words be a testament to your experiences, your story, or just who you are as a person.
Yeah, and that's what I think so many people struggle with when they're first starting out. Just who wants to hear what I have to say? They struggle with that. And I know sometimes it's difficult. I still struggle because I'm not where I want to be either. And I don't think you would ever be. Every time, you reach a new goal, you want to strive to, a higher goal. But it's so important to know that your voice is valuable. And how can you help, especially women, because that's our target demographic, women feel more comfortable in being and using their voice?
Yes, another great question. I would say um, maybe check in with yourself and check in with like who you are as a person. Identify your morals and your values, things that you enjoy, your passion, and kind of allow that to lead your voice. When you have that affirmation, that self affirmation of who you are and things that you care about, you tend to be more confident in your delivery and what you're sharing with other people.
Yeah, and I so agree. Now moving on to like vocal hygiene. What is that, first of all?
Yes, that's vocal hygiene in simplest forms. Vocal hygiene is your behavior and your lifestyle choices to maintain optimal, healthy voice. There are many different ways that we abuse our voices, but vocal hygiene is just keeping that vocal quality in healthy realms.
Okay. And I kind of knew because look, a little fun fact about me. I used to sing back in high school. So it's funny that when I heard that, I was like, that's something I haven't heard in a while. And it just, like you said, it's like if you smoke or different things like that can, make a difference in your voice, or you might need to drink liquids or whatever like that. So how can you keep that intact? Exactly. What can you do
Yeah.
to keep that intact?
How can we keep our vocal health intact?
Yeah.
So, vocal hygiene, I would say your number one go to is drinking water,
Mhm.
especially if you are talking for continuously throughout the day. A lot of us are working from home. For me, I work virtually. So, it's really important to keep your vocal folds hydrated, right? You want to rest your vocal folds the same way. I like to say that the way we perceive our bodies is the same way that we should nurture and care for our vocal folds. So resting, keeping our vocal folds hydrated, um, taking breaks and pauses while you are talking if you're talking for long durations of time, but also be mindful of like who you are. Some people can talk for 2 hours, 3 hours on end, but others may be able to talk in that long of duration but may need to take a sip of water in between or take a break in between. So those are definitely tips on how to maintain your vocal hygiene.
Okay. So since we're talking about going live, so should we, I mean, if we're not really talking, like right now we are, well, we're working from home virtually. I know for me, I could just speak for myself. Sometimes I don't have a whole bunch of meetings. So if we're going live, should we preserve our voice or not talk to anyone for a while, or just make sure that we're hydrated? Or does it just depends on the duration, or the message that we're trying to speak to that day?
Yeah, so I feel like it definitely depends on you as a person, depends on the duration. There are some things to keep in mind, like keeping a glass of water nearby so that if you are pausing, if you are taking breaks, if you feel like you're getting a little windy or breathy, drink some water. Also, your posture. So when we speak, it involves air. Our vital capacity that travels from our lungs through our trachea and out our mouths to produce spoken language. So you want to make sure that your posture, you're sitting up in a way that you can maximize that airflow while you're talking. Also, deep breathing. So maybe taking a break, if you can take a break virtually, you can practice some deep breathing practices. I'm not a professional in that area, but it definitely is a suggestion. And just keeping in mind that duration of time that you will be talking and the necessary breaks that may be needed. Give yourself that time.
Yes. And what about confidence? I know that is a big thing for a lot of people just getting started, and also women that, have got a couple of years under their belt. Do you have any tips on being confident with your voice, or any other techniques that you can do in order to make that, a better area?
Yes, so that's a great question. You have good questions. I would say with confidence, you want to impart passion and meaning to your audience. If you're speaking, whether it's in person or online. So for me personally, I like to practice or rehearse before I go live, or well, this is my first live, but before I like go on my Instagram story or before I give a presentation, I practice. I practice in front of people that I feel comfortable with so that if there are areas of concern, I trust their feedback and I try to work on that as I go. So alongside practicing, you can like record yourself and practice like that confidence, right? You want to match your what you deem as confident, what you deem as comfortable. So checking in with yourself and checking in with people that you trust, people that you feel confident with, to kind of make sure that you are exuding that confidence that you want to exude when you are on camera.
And I actually echo that because that's one thing that I always give a tip to our community is that watch your replays. You can learn so much from that. And like you said, just taping yourself even before you go live or once you venture out to do so, watching your replays, changing things that you feel, that could have went better or just, like you said, if you have someone that you know and trust, because I always say that you trust because a lot of people don't give you constructive feedback. So definitely somebody that you can trust, talk to them and see how you can perfect it and get better. Nothing is going to ever be perfect. But yeah, you definitely can make adjustments along the way. We have some conversation in the chat. Sarah says, wait, Lord have mercy, my dad. Sana Powell says, I definitely feel burnt out from talking sometimes. So hearing about vocal hygiene is helpful. What tips do you recommend for people who don't know how to use their voice? Wait, what tips do you recommend for people who don't like how their voice sounds on video? I'm sorry.
That is a good question. It's interesting because when you say you leave a voicemail on a phone and then you listen to the voicemail that you left and you're like, oh, I don't like the way I sound. I say give your voice grace. Like we give ourselves grace. Give your voice grace because our voice is filtered through so many different organs in our body, like our inner ear, our brain, different canals. So it's already programmed to sound differently when you hear it, secondary to then when you're speaking yourself. So then again, practicing, right? Practicing maybe to switch up different qualities in your voice, not significantly, but just to kind of be more comfortable with the way your voice sounds once it is away from you. So once it's like on camera or not on camera, like in video form or on a voicemail, so that you can kind of continue to give yourself grace and feel more comfortable with the sound of your voice.
Yeah, and I think that's what I hear a lot too. I'm glad that that was one of the questions. A lot of people struggle with that, and like you said, I just think that's it's something that sometimes you can make it better and then sometimes you just have to, that's your voice, you just have to accept it. And I'm big on changing the things that you can and accepting, the things that you can and being okay with it. And I think I said before, like, what's her name? Michelle, like a singer from back in the day. Like she, something in my heart, Dr. Dre's old wife, but it's just like she has like a squeaky voice, and I'm sure that you wouldn't think that that powerful singing voice comes out of that regular speaking voice, but I'm sure that that is something that she had to just accept about herself. And what a powerful vocal or singing voice that she has. So it's just like you said, just accepting the things that you can, and then tweaking something every now and then. So I definitely agree with that. Also, Corpus says, I agree. Doing virtual speech sessions with my students, I find my voice feeling exhausted after back-to-back sessions. Thanks for these helpful reminders. So
Of course.
yeah. So the next thing I want to move forward with is talking with your hands, because I see we both do it. I don't even know if that's something I can stop if I want to, because it makes me feel comfortable.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to hear your take on it, and see if you feel the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like there's nothing wrong with talking with your hands. You coined it. It's definitely comforting. For some people, it may be comforting. For some, it may be a confidence boost. But I feel like when you talk with your hands, you add more depth to your message, right? You add more meaning to your message. In the workplace, I work with younger students, and we like to say that we use multimodal communication. Students have varying needs of support for speech and language. And so we like to speak with our hands, even sign language is a form of hand, hand gestures. So vocally speaking with your hands, right, to give that depth. If we're talking about labeling objects, I might say, ooh, that car is big, or that car is small. So I feel like it's definitely a plus to speak with your hands.
Yes. So I'm glad that we hear it from the experts. It's okay. So ladies, use your hands away. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good thing if
Yes,
that's what you want to do.
I must say that you also want to be mindful of like your use of hands when you're speaking on camera, because sometimes you might like fidget with your hands, and you don't want that to be a distraction to your audience or even to yourself. So also being mindful of the usage of your hands when you are on camera.
And that's a good point. Some people use it for, like you said, more of expressing whatever. And then, like you said, you can abuse it, not abuse it, but, look a little off putting if you're like fidgeting. It's a sign of like nervousness or something like that. So thanks for that tip. So moving on to eye contact. That's something that's very important. It shows that you're engaging with your audience. What are some tips to maintain good eye contact?
Ooh, so with eye contact, I remember in grad school, we took a multicultural issues course, and we learned how in different cultures, eye contact is viewed differently. But generally speaking, and for myself, I make eye contact, or I try to make eye contact with those that I'm speaking to. So when you're on camera, if you know that you're preparing to present on camera, you want to practice for one. And when you're practicing, you want to practice in a way that you're reading your script, but also looking up at your audience. So in grad school, one of my professors said rule of thumb is if you're going to use a script while you're speaking on camera, you want to look at your script, maybe like read 1 to 2 sentences and look up. So read 1 to 2 sentences and look up. 1 to 2, look up. So I think that's a fair rule of thumb if you're referencing a script while you're speaking on camera.
Great tip. I so agree. Because sometimes you're just nervous, and you sometimes you don't really go off of bullet points, and you need to have that, written out speech, or whatever you're doing. And like you said, just maintaining that eye contact and looking up and looking down is definitely something that will work with your audience. So I agree. We do have another question. It is, how do you overcome speaking off camera?
How do you overcome speaking off camera?
I'm sorry, topic. I'm sorry. What is it? How do you overcome speaking off topic? Sorry.
Okay. I was like, I don't know.
No, sorry, topic.
Speaking off topic, I would say again, practicing. So naturally, I feel like in conversation, you might have tangential speech where you have a communication partner, you're kind of going on a tangent, but check in with yourself. Check in with yourself and think about, what is the topic about? Am I erring more towards like my point of view? Is the conversation connected? So maybe just thinking about ways that you can make connected comments with the topic or your communication partner.
Okay. And that leads me into my next question. How do you know that your message is landing with your audience?
Ooh, so I would say you want to check in with your audience. I like to think if I ever imagine myself on like a TED Talk, I would think, and I love watching TED Talks, so I would think like I want to give to my audience rather than take. So if you're giving, you want to make sure that you are checking in with your audience. You are asking yourself, like, am I serving my audience's interest? You can do so by asking them questions, follow-up questions. You can do like an exit ticket kind of towards the end of your conversation or your message. Those are different ways that you can definitely make sure that your audience is still engaged. And also just through body language, nonverbal cues, you know, like notice their body orientation. Are they still with you? Like, are they facing you? Are they frowning? Facial expressions also aid in whether or not your audience is still engaged.
Okay. And so we have an engaged audience tonight. So we have a couple of more questions.
Yes, bring them.
How do you help yourself from stuttering, talking rapidly when you feel nervous on camera?
Ooh, that is a mighty question. So I love to say stutter beautifully. If you are a person who stutters, if you're stuttering on camera, give yourself grace. It is okay. Sometimes there are so many different reasons why people stutter, and a lot of times we like to think that it is because you are nervous. So then again, I fall back on that practicing, rehearsing, recording yourself, check in with yourself, record yourself, watch the video, analyze your speech, right? Like, okay, am I using too many fillers? Am I saying, am I saying, okay? Am I repeating words? So definitely analyze your speech if that's something that you want to be more mindful about when you are talking on camera.
Okay. And we have another one. Well, actually, this is more of a comment. I notice that I give good eye contact when listening. However, when I'm expressing, especially something containing emotion or personal thought, I tend to look away. Do you have any tips?
Wow. I feel like I do the same thing. Maybe when you notice that you're looking away, look at the person that you're talking to. Like, tell yourself, like, okay, let me reorient myself, reorient my body, or reorient my eye contact to my communication partner. Yeah, but I feel like it's okay to kind of, if your eye contact is veering away momentarily, but also try to bring it back in if that's something that you value in a conversation.
And I agree with what you said. I feel the same way. And if that's something from your replay watching that you want to do a little better in, you're conscious of it, you know, so the next time you would definitely be like, you know what, I want to look away, but I'm going to continue to have eye contact because I know this is an area that I want to improve upon. And then once you keep having that in your head constantly, I think you would definitely do better. And when you're, you know, something that's personal, emotional, you'll kind of like zone in and be like, this is what I need to do if that's what you choose to do. So I agree with you. As far as making your message more inclusive, what are some tips in doing that?
Ooh, so inclusivity is very important. And I feel like sometimes it can be overlooked, especially on social media. So we should consider, like, how can I make my message more accessible to those that have different uniquenesses and different abilities? You want to think about, maybe someone might be deaf and hard of hearing, or someone may need support with processing. So by doing so, you can have subtitles on your videos when you're talking. That's something I want to do better on when I'm sharing verbal information on my Instagram stories. And I think recently Instagram added an update where you can add subtitles to your stories. I don't have that update yet, so I use an app or two apps called Capwing and Clip-O-Matic. My cousin actually told me about Clip-O-Matic because he's actually a person who is deaf, and he's like, I want to support you, but I can't hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So Clip-O-Matic is definitely an app that fosters inclusivity for verbal information shared on social media platforms. Being mindful about your words. You don't want to use words that are offensive to someone's language or their culture, their religion. You want to use inclusive language. So my go-to is inclusive gender language. If I'm starting a video, I might say, hi everyone, instead of saying, hey guys, because that by default is talking about one specific gender. And if you want to be inclusive, you can say, hi everyone, hey y'all, just to include everybody. You want to use people first language when we're talking about abilities. So those are different ways that you can have an inclusive message when you're on camera.
Yeah. And so I want to unpack two things that you said. And it's funny that you don't notice that until you have these conversations, because just for example, when you said, hey guys, I am so guilty of that. And you don't think about, the being inclusive part. You just think that that's something you've been saying forever. And it's kind of like, in my mind, it is inclusive, but it's not. And until you are educated on it, you can do better. So I'm definitely glad that we're having the conversation, because honestly, sometimes it's just not a thought. You just do stuff off of, being, I don't know, on autopilot, or something that you've always been doing, and you don't realize that it's not being inclusive. So I definitely wanted to say that. And then also for the captions, it's I've been on social media for a while, and that really, I didn't notice it until maybe a year or two ago, that a lot of people are now including that on their clips. And I thought that that was a good thing. I know that was something that we tried to do for this particular episode, but it was I know YouTube is rolling out things, and then you have to have a certain benchmark as far as subscribers, because I guess they're testing it out or whatever they're doing. But that's something that I'm definitely going to be more conscious of as I go forward, because again, if you don't know or have these conversations, sometimes you're not thinking about it. So I'm so happy that we are having this conversation.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. And then as far as rehearsing your message before you go out, and I guess the public can hear it, how many times would you suggest that you rehearse it before revealing it?
I say that there is no numerical amount of how many times you can rehearse. Definitely err on the side of over preparation than under preparation. So rehearse, repeat, repeat, repeat. Again, rehearse in front of people that make you feel comfortable, people that will uplift you, and also give you constructive feedback on things that you can improve on in your message. Recording yourself, noting different things about your vocal quality per se, or words that you might want to omit, or even being more mindful about your inclusive language. I have to share that an industrial leader once shared with me that whenever he gives talks, like if he has an hour presentation, he will practice for at least 100 hours in preparation for a 1 hour seminar.
Wow.
So that is really extreme. Very extreme, but it's just to reiterate that you can never over prepare. Like you can never over rehearse for being on camera.
Yeah. No, and I really think that that helps. I mean, the 100 hours, that's like, that's a lot. But I think the more that you practice, you feel more comfortable, honestly, with your message. And once you feel more comfortable, I feel that the anxiety levels are lowered, the stress levels are lowered, and your confidence pumps up.
Yes.
So I definitely agree with, being prepared and practicing, and never stop, never stop trying to get better at whatever your craft is. I so agree. So do you have any last comments that you want to leave us, or tips?
Ooh, I would just say be kind to yourself when you're speaking on camera. Maybe even for me, I actually was really nervous about getting on this live. It is my first time being on a live. So I'm like excited, but I've been nervous and I've prepared. I have prepared. So there's no embarrassment there. Like, always prepare, no matter how professional you think you are. And also, like, don't be too hard on yourself when you even watch other professional speakers, because they practice. Like, some people spend money on learning how to be a professional speaker. So just start with yourself and building that confidence and that comfort, and that'll take you really far.
Yeah. I just want to say you did great for your first live.
Thank
You
you,
really
Rosie.
did. I see more in your future.
Thank you so much.
So what's next for you?
Whew, what is next? Well, I currently work as a school-based speech and language pathologist. So if I'm not doing stuff, if I'm not thrifting, I'm creating materials, engaging materials for my students. I want to soon have a website of my curated finds, my curated thrifted finds. So I'm always thrifting if I'm not working. But right now I post story sales here and there on my Instagram. I share my thrifted finds on Poshmark and apps like Daypop, Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, those are different ways that I fill my cup. Those are different ways that I connect with my community, people I care about. I thrift for my family, I thrift for my friends. So that's pretty much it. That's what's next.
And how can people support you and stay connected?
Yeah, so I'm Thrift and Prosper, Thrift, the letter N, Prosper, on Instagram, on Daypop, on Poshmark. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Yeah, those are different ways to stay connected with me. I hope to continue to grow. I'm also on TikTok, so I love to make videos whenever my time permits. So that's how you can stay connected with me. And I look forward to connecting with those that are watching the video, that will watch the video. I'm really excited.
Awesome. So I am so happy. And I'm gonna try to say Ugochi. Did I say it? You're talking about, I'm saying it in my head so many times because I'm a stickler for getting people names right. So I'm so happy I did. I thank you so much for being on the bandwidth. This was a great topic, like I said, in opening up, that so many women are just, they want to get their voice out there, but like we kind of like talked about, they don't like their voice or they don't know how to use it. And you have provided some great tips in how they can, have their vocal hygiene and tips on for them to better use their voice. So I'm so thankful for you for coming on and sharing these tips with our audience.
Thank you so much for having me, Rosie. It was a pleasure.
So again, if you guys are not following our channel, please definitely do so. Please subscribe. If you're not following our IG, make sure you do. It's Faulkner_Rosie. And if you know of one person that could benefit from this conversation, this episode, please definitely share it with them. We will be back next week with another episode of The Bandwidth. And also, if you are ready to go live, in the description box, I have a link that you can get my 3 tools for going live. So please check that out. And again, we will see you next week on The Bandwidth. Bye-bye.